What's happening, guys? We're back. Turns out building a car is expensive. Alright guys, so the plan for this episode was to show you we're going to put a adjustable fuel pressure regulator on the car and hopefully get the overfueling issue sorted out. If you remember back when we took the car for a spin, it was weeks ago now, we were having some major issues. It was running really rich, the car was backfiring on D-cell, it was overfueling. So I thought the problem was the fuel pressure because we're running a bigger fuel pump. So we went out and bought an adjustable fuel pressure regulator, and I shot a whole episode of us putting that in, and it turned out not to be the problem. Our fuel pressure was a little bit high on the factory regulator, but even when we dropped it down, it was only like 10 psi high or something. Even when we dropped it down to the recommended pressure, the car still runs really rich. It's not happy. So we need to do something else to get this thing running right. The problem that we're running into right now is we have the factory ECU on the car, and we have no idea what the sensors are telling the ECU or what the ECU is telling the engine to do. We have no gauges, so we have no insight as to what the inner workings of the actual engine, what it's actually doing. So theoretically, we might have a check engine light. I don't know, I don't have a check engine light. So there's no real way for me to dig into that ECU. You can do a thing called Nissan Consult, which is a program from like the 80s and 90s, and you can kind of look into that ECU, but I need a Consult plug, and I have all the wires for the Consult plug, but it's long gone. So we could do that. Maybe we'd be able to fix the problems, but we're still left with the factory computer, limitations with that, and we're still left with no gauges. So I think the route that we're gonna go is a full standalone system. There's a couple of really good options out there. I was looking at the ECU Masters Black. It's a pretty inexpensive unit that can do everything we need it to do, but I actually stumbled across a company called Fuel Tech, and they have a system called the FT550, and the FT550 is both a ECU, fully programmable ECU, and a dashboard. So we would get all our gauges, all of our dummy lights, we get all that in one package, and it's still pretty reasonably priced. I want to go with the 550 because it also has the ability to do drive-by-wire and run an electric throttle body and get rid of the cable system that we have, and hopefully one day in the future we'll do that. But so I think that's the route that we're gonna go. It is gonna be like a $3,000 touch once it gets here, and then I need to find somebody local that can tune it and work with me if I do run into some issues setting that thing up. So I think that's where we're gonna have to go on the engine. So we're gonna press pause on that, like we do all the time when we run into an issue. We're gonna press pause on the engine until I figure that the ECU out. And then I was gonna move on to suspension because, all right, so these are our coilovers that we got. They're QA1 single adjustables, really nice system. We got 300-pound springs for the front and 180s in the back. We sized them using the weight of the car when we weighed it there months and months ago. So we were gonna install these in the car today. Unfortunately, I ran into a bit of an issue. So these are ordered with a bushing end because that's what Speedway sells. But these bushing ends are 1.25 inches wide. So you need your mount plates to be 1.25 inches apart. And when we put all of the temporary mounts in there, we only spaced them 1 inch apart. So we would have to go in and cut all those mounts out and move them apart 1/4 inch in order to fit these in. Also, because these are bushings, they work really well when the shock needs to move this way, but they don't work very well when the shock needs to move this way. So I was looking at my front suspension, and the coilover, or I guess the bar that's in there right now, it's a little bit out of plane. So what that means is my A-arm, if you imagine you're directly beside the car, my A-arm is gonna move like this. So when it does that, this shock is gonna move a little bit like this with it. But, and that's fine if you're like this, because it's gonna move up and down like that, and it's gonna rotate on this point. But my shock is not perfectly 90 degrees to that A-arm. It's actually tilted like this. So when that shock goes up, this coilover is gonna change angle this way. And because our bushing runs this way, they're actually gonna bind a little bit on those bushings. So the option to fix that is I can go in and adjust all the mounts and try to get it more in plane. They do allow for a little bit of out of plane, but not as much as we have. So I could go in and fix that, or I looked and I believe I can get a spherical bearing kit for these. So just replace these bushings with a spherical bearing that'll allow it to move in all directions. They're basically like a little Heim joint. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, those are only 1 inch wide. So we might be able to just install these the way that they are in the car. We just need to replace all these bushings with those spherical bearings. So I need to look into that yet. So we're not gonna do the suspension today because I gotta figure out if I can fix that. If I can't get spherical bearings for those, it means we have to move the mounts, and if we have to move the mounts, it means we have to strip the entire car apart so we can flip the chassis over, and I just don't want to do that right now. So we're gonna investigate some other options. What I have been doing is I've been working on the paneling. So we use that sheet metal brake. We use that sheet metal brake to build our engine side panels here. Stay. So those go on there, and then I've been working my way backwards. So I got the footwells plated in, and then I'm working right now on the rear, I don't know, rear corners. So I got some little radius pieces that we're gonna mount on the back there, and I've just been paneling it in. I haven't been filming it because, quite frankly, I move way faster without a camera, and it's real boring to watch a guy bang a tin. So yeah, so that's where we're at right now. I'm not gonna show you guys us doing anything today because there's nothing to do. I'm gonna figure out the suspension so that hopefully we don't have to flip the car over. And then I'll check back with you guys once we got that figured out, and we'll move on from there. So thank you for watching, guys. Sorry we didn't do anything today, just a little update episode, but we'll see you in a few weeks. I'm out of here.